If you mean to obstruct me, then die!
I basically did everything. Well, I did most of the quest. Let's phrase it like that. And then use all my bonus XP. As well as went and fought some strong enemies. Bigger damage going down a little bit faster this time. A little bit faster. You know, there is an element to, there's an interesting parallel there between Matthew and A, and then if she's with Male and Alpha, it's sort of two different ways to have two sides of the same coin. Right? Obviously intentional, but yeah. Ooh, yeah, same as last time, as I did against that one. Got the same order, so this is basically as strong as I can do at the moment.
Here I go.
For a chain attack. That wasn't nearly as strong, I think.
There goes the enemy.
He just, Rex just dies. I think he probably got a lot of aggro from that. That's funny.
How do you like How do you like that?
Man, this is even at like level. Yeah. I'm very afraid of her enrage. I'm very afraid of her enrage. So I hold on to chain attack for longer. With how much damage I've been doing, it's probably a good idea to do it 3 times in this battle based on how much damage I've done. Does make me wary though. Can't. No, I might be able to use him still. I don't think that should be enough with the just times 25 part. Yeah, okay, that still works. So this is very similar to the last time. I'm getting lucky that I'm able to get these two as my
I'll bring it home.
let's see if it adds up to almost perfectly once more. Nope. Nope. It's interesting how the 2 times I did it previously, it was 152 that time, each time, because I did the identical amount. And I'm not entirely sure what does all like the little extra stuff, but still pretty good, I think.
Oh no! I lost the enemy's attention.
Okay, Rex is. Oh, what the? Oh, A, heal, get Glimmer up.
Gotta lie down first. Rex, we can't do this without you.
Right, Glitter, give me your hand. Thank you.
Get healers up. Uh-oh.
Everyone, I'm sorry.
Sword, I'm coming for you.
What?
I'm still standing, and soon you won't be. Still within operating parameters.
What?
And it's too soon for me to quit. I should have done
She just fucking erased me.
Move my legs.
Such a shame.
I don't. Is this supposed to be unfair? Like, I gotta be honest, like, while I enjoy this battle system, it's so very it does not feel immensely skill-based. It never really has. There's always been just like too much going on, and you're just sort of like relying on the AI to do exactly what they need to, and hope that the boss doesn't do some bullshit that like takes out your party, and you just sort of have to deal with it. it's like, it's a good enough battle system that I'm fine playing through the game once in it, but it wasn't enough for me to want to do like the special challenges, largely because of how long everything fucking takes in it. And part of that, it's so long in it, it makes it really annoying to just have to redo a battle that it's just like, what? You just fucking took me out? Oh yeah, that's another 20 minutes of my life just to figure it out again. Oh, I might turn the difficulty down. I'm thinking right now, because how much I care at this point about the gameplay, basically. Because I finished the game, I don't feel an investment to be good at it at this point, right? I'm not at a point in this particular rendition of the game that and the progression system also sort of ticks me off a bit, because I sort of absolutely hate it. That it's basically turning Collectathon into the progression, and I honestly have been disliking it more and more as I've played it. As much as I like the story elements of this, I have not enjoyed the gameplay changes. I need to think about this for like a second. I'm doing it. I'm gonna be frank. I've talked before about how the game's like design concepts are like, you gotta balance this just right or it's going to make me hate it. It's made me hate it. This is legitimately, I think, one of the least fun Xenoblade gameplay experiences I think I've had in one of the games. As simple as that. It's so incredibly grindy. It's so incredibly turning Collectathon shit that's fine to have, but is incredibly annoying when it's basically forced into progression, is one of the worst things I've ever experienced in a game as a concept. And it can sort of work if you balance it just right, and to be frank, it's way off the mark. The fact that I've gone into multiple battles way under leveled, just playing casually in terms of the Collectathon stuff. Like, not even playing casually, but like making some semblance of an effort to play it like a little bit here and there, and I'm just way under leveled. And I go spend like an hour and a half doing shit. And I spend like an hour and a half going and doing shit, and I'm just basically up to level now, using bonus XP, which has never been how the game has been balanced. Bonus XP is always like, hey, if I really want to use it, I can use it, and maybe there's like a few instances where I really wanted to use it. Now it's basically required. I've done like most of the content outside of scavenging every little fucking thing and fighting every little fucking enemy on the screen. Honestly, fuck it. I'm liking the story. I don't want it to be dragged down by the gameplay anymore. As much as I've liked the other, like the main game's gameplay, I just straight up dislike the gameplay in this outright. And I can already tell I'm going to enjoy this way more solely on the basis of how smoothly this is fucking going in comparison. I have no issue with stomping through this expansion and just enjoying the story for what the fuck it is. And to note, the reason I did easy instead of normal is just because I'm done. Everything that's formed my opinion about all this basically has become, it's become everything that I don't want it to be, for all intents and purposes. I'll probably put it, especially since I'm recording this all before going, I'll probably put a disclaimer that this is going to happen, so people don't go into like the Let's Play being like expecting it and then being surprised that this happens. Maybe I'll put it back up to hard after this, just so I keep playing through the game on it at least. And if I run into another thing, I'm not gonna like stand there and be like, okay, I'm gonna go grind. I'm just gonna turn it down again. That's probably what I'm going to do. I'll say one nice thing about the Unity attacks is that they make sure the two are standing next to each other for things like that field attack up.
We're just getting started.
Holy fucking shit.
This is the move! More of that!
Will one person go down? Because she's doing her enrage now. And I think that settles it.
Why?
Yeah, no, that definitely took the momentum out of the story, and that's the part I hate.
Bastard! That's a hell of a lot more power than before!
It's the Avatar. Her emotions are heightened. They're feeding straight into Alpha's power.
Niall! Hey, stop this! Please, just stop! No, not him.
N.
If raw emotion is what affords him strength, it must be disrupted with emotions stronger still. You fail to reach such a zenith. Alpha. I, N, shall thwart you once more. My blade will cut your very will.
Short of the end, he's gonna use it.
Sure about that? I am Niall.
I am divorced of all that. All doubts. Misgivings gone!
Oh. Are you... Oh.
Bust!
Okay. I'm particularly happy. Everything's getting blocked. Also, I'm dying.
Here's a double for
Big
ya!
time. Guys, I could use some healing.
Blood moon!
I guess that was supposed to be on.
Matthew.
This again, Alpha. Really?
Niall!
It is over.
No! Stop!
It's you.
Like killing Grandad wasn't enough for you? Now Niall, too! Huh? The hell are you playing at, eh? Why?
You must not lash out at him. Matthew. He's not your enemy. I promise you.
Stop talking shite! He's trying to kill Niall! He killed Grandad! And you're...
He is your flesh and blood.
What?
I guess they've had that photo.
Impossible. Can't be!
Yet, it was this man who tried to erase me. He is the one to blame.
Niall.
They're strong. Your emotions. Stronger even than my own. Think you've bought yourself some time?
We may not have much, but it's more than we need to erase you.
Quite. Well then, I'm happy to wait. For you both, yes?
Oh, hello. Yeah, he did mention that Alpha had origin. So that's significant.
Origin? What's it doing here?
It must be Alpha's doing.
All it means is that we don't have a whole lot of time to spare.
What? Eternity. Sorry? My due, in return for protecting this world, Zed promised me eternity. An eternal present in which to abide.
Zed? Is that the Mobius head honcho? What do you even do with eternity? For starters, you Mobius... Bastard. That's the reason for this.
I'm sure you plan to pursue them. And yet I will not let you reach them. Before you can interpose yourself, I will cut Alpha down. You do well to remember that.
You serious? Even now? She's your flesh and blood too!
I think I'm getting back to the mindset of paying attention to the story.
Matthew. Come on, let's go back to base and regroup. We'll tell you everything we know.
Damn straight. I'm done being kept in the dark. About time you let me into the club.
Still wondering what might have happened here that made all these nice people go away.
Let's stop by the command center. We can talk there in peace and quiet.
Fine.
Okay. Here. Like I said, I'll put it back up. I'm gonna collect my thoughts a little bit more. Because the gameplay is really the thing that's on my mind, and that's sort of pissing me off, the fact that it is. The base games was not immensely difficult. I don't think so. It gave you leeway, right? To basically make up for the fact that the combat is just a hectic mess of particles on screen for a large portion of it, where the AI was pretty decent, and the battles had leeway enough that things could fuck up, and you can go around and make up for it. And probably most importantly, the fun part of the base game, the hyper customizability of all the characters, where you could basically just make your team into whatever you want. That was fun. This has some of that. It's dialed back. That's fine. But honestly, I fucking preferred Xenoblade 2's battle system. As much as it was sort of repetitive, this is also sort of repetitive. I don't know. I'd have to probably think about it before, because this is all off the cuff of my thoughts coming out of my head. There's a word for it. Stream of consciousness. But The reason I did it ultimately boiled down to the innate design of this expansion being not get good by customizing stuff and having these... It wasn't a take your strategy and your unique custom setup to go against this challenge and maybe like do a little grinding in order to like unlock some stuff to allow you to do that a bit better. This has been quite outright, very in your face. Do all our open world bullshit, or else you won't be able to actually progress. And it is an innate premise that has been balanced to a point where it feels obligatory at the moment to have a chance at apparently just playing through the story here. It's not even like, that wasn't even like some side boss. So yes, as soon as I ran into just, hey, I'm at level, you wipe mechanic, my thought process was, this game, this expansion to the game, has not convinced me that it wants, has not convinced me, has not given me the desire to get good at it. So, fuck it. Basically. That's my mindset at the moment. And if there's another fight that feels like it's basically a fuck you, I will go back to that. I've been okay with playing to the game up until that fight, but at that point of that fight, it was very much it felt like the game was telling me, you're not playing this well enough for whatever reason, and I do not in the slightest want to, one, spend... Oh, that's the other element of the battle system. They're immensely long. The chain attacks in particular, all the fights on the harder difficulties are incredibly long, and that's another important part about not making it so that you just wipe, because it's not really a sort of battle system where it is fun if you need to experiment with different strategies constantly, because they're so fucking long. Every attempt to do that is an eternity to actually do it, and it's actually the primary reason that I went from someone who went and tried to do a lot of the super bosses like post-game in 1 and 2 to in this one being like, I'm good. Like I enjoyed the game for what it was, but in no case do I actually want to be met with like a figure this out challenge in a significant way, because the gameplay is so drawn out. The base game, I do sincerely believe, hit a good balance for being enjoyable in the main story and left the challenging, figure this fuck out, get really good at it, experiment and figure out the fight element to it a bit more. It was just, there's some of that in the main story, but it was a bit more outside of it in the side optional content. And I don't know if I'm just really bad at the game or something, and like that actually was legitimately just supposed to be a normal fight, and I might look like a complete fucking asshole for having this much problems with it. I don't know. I'm recording this all and editing and putting it up, so no one's going to be able to judge me too hard until they downvote the thing to eternity. I don't care at this point. But I want to fucking explain myself at least. So the thought process is very much when you it's just a hey, wipe because hey, this mechanic happened. If it was just the mechanic where it was that laser beam going forward that killed some people, it's like, okay, sure, place the tanks in a certain place. I get it. Then she does like the swirly thing where everyone just fucking died. The same sort of thing happened with the last fight where there was that one mechanic that was just like, oh, everyone dies now. Part of the problem is that Glimmer and 8 aren't particularly good healers. It's not like we're being kept... I mean, I think they're actually doing a fairly decent job, but their healing has felt generally sort of weak. That's a little bit of it. The fact that they're also the only two that can bring people up also means that they're also the ones that if they die, you wipe. Because it's a game of... I'm blanking on the word for it, but it's an endurance game where basically you gotta hold out to the end. And when you have that whole mechanic where only the healers can bring people up, and maybe there's a skill I can get to make that not the case. I don't fucking know. That's still a mechanic that basically tells you, hey, you're fucked, and you can't customize the team so you can have 3 healers to make sure you can actually live in battles that you're less sure about the mechanic. What it ultimately boils down to is I hit that wall. My first instinct, because I knew what I need to do to get over it, would be to go around for another hour or 2 to grind up to a level where it's a little bit more trivialized, or to hit my head against the wall 2 or 3 more times in a lengthy battle that was going slowly. And to be honest, at that point it was very much just I don't care anymore. It was just the flip of a switch, and it's exactly what I feared from the start of Xenoblade Chronicles 1. If you go back and look at my original Let's Play of the first game, when it introduced some of like the various side content elements, and it was like, ooh, that doesn't sound like it's fun, please balance that well. And I remember ending that game thinking, if those fears completely not wanted, or not warranted, because they balanced it great. This, exactly the opposite. So, we're moving forward. I am not taking questions because I've already recorded to the end. I might answer questions in the comments if I've changed opinions significantly by the end of this when this goes up. But, outside of that, we're moving on. Oh yeah, there's the story too. That's the other elements of this. I just sort of want to see the story. And the fact that I'm so incredibly wrapped up in the good of the gameplay elements of it, to the point where they dumped a lot of fucking info that I haven't even really processed all that. That also sort of pisses me off. I don't know. I like games that tell a story and the gameplay complements it. And honestly, I thought the base game really actually did a pretty good job of what that was. And it's just the matter of it is legitimately a matter of, hey, you tweak these levers a little bit in a different direction and everything's a bit different. Everything works just a bit worse to the point that it just doesn't work. So, fuck, right? I wish it wasn't the case, but fuck. Maybe I'll have a completely different opinion by the next battle. By the next boss battle.
Our original worlds used to be one and the same. It boasted almost unthinkable prosperity and was home to so many people.
That is, until one man's foolishness screwed it all up, splitting it into 2 separate places.
One was the world of the Bionis, and the other, Olrest. These 2 divided worlds began to evolve independently of each other. They each gave birth to new life.
Wasn't as peaceful as it sounds, though. You had your share of tyrannical empires, scrabbling over limited resources. But despite all that, thanks to generations of people fighting for the future, the worlds did eventually know harmony.
Sadly, it didn't last. The 2 worlds torn asunder longed to be as they once were. But they were composed of opposing types of matter. Recombined, they would dissolve into light and cease to be. The annihilation events you see across Ionios are miniature portents of this.
So we put our heads together and built something that would let us escape destruction. We called it Origin, a repository of data about everything, of memories and souls. Even if the worlds were annihilated, this system would let us revive them. And that thing in the sky is it.
At the heart of its workings is the Trinity processor core called Ontos. In other words, Alpha.
But Alpha deemed our existence obsolete and wanted to erase us. We all fought, even Mobius. And it was a draw. No, I guess we lost. All we did was delay the inevitable a smidge. We couldn't cut it.
Now Alpha's gathering power again, and getting ready to depart. In the heart of Origin called the Ark. Alongside new life, the lives of city people gathered there, which he plans to take to a new world.
Is that all of it then? We done?
City.
No more little secrets?
It's the unvarnished truth.
Okay, no, that brings a lot of it together. Simplifies it is probably the better way to phrase it.
But why would he choose her in particular? There were so many in the city to choose from.
She's got Agnian ancestry. In terms of hereditary traits, core crystals get dominance. My guess? Maybe it's because he's got injured when we fought. Maybe she's got whatever he's lacking.
There's more to it. Her emotions also factor into it. Or that may in fact be the most crucial element of all.
Say, what's so great about this world? Really? All the thieving for one's own gain, the greed. Life has less value in this world than a piece of dirt. This is your world of peace.
That
I think it was.
wasn't my sister back there. Niall is the kindest person I know. She looked after the city's children, and they loved her.
But that's just it. When a person loses that, what do? They change. What she said last night, that's the way she truly felt. And to Alpha, those emotions are the perfect fodder. Right now, she's a great deal more indispensable to him than me.
I'll find him. But I'm doing it for her. For Niall. All this saving the world stuff, that's something for you guys to sort out. I'll buckle up. No problem.
Good to hear. Then our goals align. In case you didn't notice, we want the best for you too.
Knowing N is your family. Still up to it?
Family. He killed Grandad. He's no family of mine.
I see. Then I won't stop you. Though,
Huh?
listen to me. If you decide to hear his side of the story, be sure to heed his words. Once you do, you can judge for yourself. I'll respect your choice.
I mean, that's interesting, at the very least. To sort of give him some credit for his choice.
Apologies. Were you waiting long?
Oh, I don't know. So, basically, so Zed was, if I remember correctly, basically, like, the actual program of Origin. Like the AI controlling it becoming, becoming self-aware enough to fulfill its purpose in this special way that was unintended and all that sort of stuff. And it sounds like basically Alpha, which A to Z makes sense to be just basically the polar opposite, where when this devaluing life concept came up, its own sort of it went basically the opposite direction. Maybe something was left over from all the stuff with Alvis and whatnot that gave a sense of value to life that never really that valued a life in a different way than Zed was treating it. But that does pretty concisely explain that element of it. Now, it doesn't necessarily explain the timeline of how Shulk and Rex are here. I'll say that at least. Because, I mean, it very much could just be that they're like, and I don't even, did they ever explain why Nia and Melia were like immortal just because time stopped? Was that it? Was it as simple as that? Because I just noticed Shulk grew his hair, which obviously time stopped. Maybe that doesn't matter. It does make it appear like they're aging, at least. It probably is as simple as that. I'm probably overcomplicating it because I got in my head really early the idea that, like, it was significantly in the future relative to everything, rather than just decades later when they were, like, full-blown adults with, like, children, basically. I had more of the impression that it was more like centuries later, which, to be frank, from like a world-building standpoint, I actually do like that better. The idea of more of a clear cutoff, and maybe you have a few people sticking around just because they're long-lived. I don't mind Shulk and Rex being here, but from a character standpoint, I love them being here. I like their dad moments. That's fantastic. From a world-building standpoint, I like them being here less. But yeah.
No, we were just about to start.
What were you gonna start again? I don't know.
Right, about our next course of action.
What's there to discuss? We break into that origin place, beat Alpha to a pulp, and get Nael the hell out of there. End of.
Thought you might say that. It's pretty much what we had in mind, too.
If we want to make our way to Origin, then our first port of call will have to be Prison Island.
Prison Island? Where's that?
Prison Island lies at the northernmost tip of the Cent Omnia region, where we are now. Smack in the middle of the rugged terrain.
From there is a way into Origin.
However, there's a problem.
Of course there is.
The entrance to Prison Island is located on the side of a tower, and at considerable elevation. The survey team has looked into it, and concluded that it would be impossible to access from ground level.
Oh, is this the Prison Island from Xenoblade 1? Like the first time we were like meeting with that one godly type figure? Oh, that does sound familiar. It's been a while though. The blue.
The city's armories are all under repair, which takes the air route off the table.
Blue does feel familiar on that front though.
So we're shit out of luck. Isn't there some other way?
Relax. There's a way, all right. We can tweak the ether slide apparatus for direct vertical ascent. Should give us access to the island's face.
At that point, we should probably call it an ether lift, really. I'll take you through the steps necessary for the refurbishment later at the workshop.
Okay, gotcha. So to start with, we'll need to get this ether lift thing ready for action. Well, no time like the present.
Matthew?
Huh? What's up, Nicole?
Oh, it's,
There's something we wanted to talk to you all about.
Oh, are you in love?
That's sudden. You sure it can't wait?
It's of the utmost importance.
Right you are, then. But this place makes me anxious. Should we take this somewhere else?
Okay, then how about our tents?
Wait, are you gonna, like, show us?
Great.
The Ouroboros power.
So, there's the ether lift business, and Nicole and Klim's urgent matter. Gonna have to tackle things one at a time.
Sure. Oh, I don't actually need to... I just need the quest. I don't actually need... Unread book. Okay. That sounds fun. Tensor this way. I'm curious. I'm mostly just curious what they have to say.
Right.
Right.
So let me get this straight.
Oh.
Nicole, you said you had something important. Speak to me.
Oh. They're actually talking. This is the Yellow Quest. I didn't think they had that. I didn't think they had voice acting then.
Well, so Glimmer and I talked things over about what to do next. We're gonna fight too. We want to stand shoulder to shoulder with you guys.
Whoa!
What, so you mean you're coming with us to Origin?
Yeah. I mean, it's true that thanks to you, we don't have to fight anymore, but still, Glimmer and I, we don't have much time left anyway. If we can, we'd like to use it for your benefit.
Wow. Pretty kind of you.
And anyway, that, Alpha or whatever his name is, if we don't take him down, then the whole world's in danger, right? If that's how things stand, then we can't act like it doesn't concern us. So we figured.
You're not coming with us.
I was actually more surprised by Glimmer being so forward about this. We haven't really heard much from her since she was like all pouty in the corner.
What? Why the spark not? You think we can't hold our own? We're proper soldiers. We can fight with the best of you, and we're ready for anything.
All right, listen up. You seem to think that being ready makes you Alpha's match or something. You couldn't be more wrong. In this fight, your readiness counts for zilch. What we need now is raw power.
You could say that the Ouroboros power is a prerequisite for opposing Alpha. But in you two, it's only just been awakened. The amount you possess won't be enough to pose a meaningful threat to him.
You can't know that before we try.
Nah, we can, and we do. As you are now, it doesn't matter how much you want it. Alpha will swat you down like flies. Just like he did us last time. And this time round, it'd be doing me no favors to try and look out for you while fighting. So be good and just...
What if we could gain the power?
What did you say?
Riku's told me all about the Ouroboros Stone. How the device can serve to deploy and amplify Ouroboros power. But also that there's still room for improvement, and how it may have powers that we don't know about. If we could tease out those capabilities, then our Ouroboros power should also grow stronger.
It's a possibility, for sure.
You're grasping now. It'll never work. Not against Alpha.
Okay, that you can't know without trying.
Kids, look. I'm only saying this for your own good.
No, hang on, Rex. I agree with Glimmer.
Not you, too.
I know I'd feel like crap having to sit around on my arse, knowing there was something I could do to make a difference. And if my days on this world were numbered, I'd hate it even more. Besides, I've not known these two for long, but I feel like they're part of the gang now. when you offered to fight with us, I was proper floored, guys.
Matthew.
Oh, I love your affection, Lemmer.
There's a logic to both sides of this debate, but I don't think you'll reach a middle ground. So, what do we do?
A very good question.
You said you want to draw out more power. Any actual solid proposals?
Well, Riku said he had an idea, and that he'd tell us once he was ready with the preliminary steps.
All right. Then, I suppose we should talk to Riku first.
Okay.
What's his problem? Crappy attitude to take with someone saying they want to help you.
Oh, you don't know the half of it.
Huh? What's that supposed to mean?
Don't mind them. Let's just all go and see Riku.
Sure.
Oh, Rex.
I mean, it's not subtle. At the very least.
So how you getting on with Riku?
Good, thanks. Funnily enough, I think we're kind of on a similar wavelength.
Yeah, I can imagine it. You do have very much the no pun member of the group vibes to you. I was thinking that during some of the last battles against Nael, where I was just like, this guy sort of reminds me of the no puns of the previous games, doesn't he? Certainly does. Okay, you know what? I think this is actually probably a good place. I was curious what they're going to bring up, and that's probably a good task for next time. Fuck. I think I've said my piece about the gameplay. I'm probably more negative about it than I will be come the end of the game. But I'm very much in the camp that I sincerely hope for the next Xeno game, whatever that is, they change the gameplay significantly to something not nearly as drawn out and not nearly as collectathon focused. Because, to be frank, fuck collectathons. They're okay, and like if you put a shiny in front of me, I'm gonna be like, ooh, a shiny. But that's not the part I really enjoy. It's more just like a distraction that helps pace things up a little bit. And if it becomes the focus, you know what? I already said I said my piece. I'm not gonna say too much more on that. We'll see where I am at the end of this. Like I said, I'm only gonna change it back if I just get pissed again at the whole thing of it. Now that I've lost like half my subs that like the Xenoblade games, let's talk about the story. I like the plot as a self-contained thing. I'm trying to remember the details of Zed's stuff, and it does feel fairly removed. Like there's details of this that I feel like with the processor and stuff like that, I'm surprised they didn't like make this part of the like parts like elements of this part of the base game story. I find that interesting, or at the very least I find it interesting like why didn't they integrate some of these concepts of like the Trinity processor and stuff like that into Zed's story? Unless I'm remembering Zed wrong? I might be. I might be. I legitimately might be. But with that in mind, like I do like it though. I'm curious. I'm not sure what is left to explain though, actually. Now that I think about it. Like, I actually am not that curious because outside of like little trifling details that don't really matter that much, it does feel like they've explained everything at this point, right? They legitimately just dumped all the info on us throughout this view cutscene. And I'm not complaining, it's an interesting one. And I'm interested to see how this plays out. I guess particularly in how it like transfers into Xenoblade 3. What it does connect the worlds a bit more clearly in terms of like the underlying lore part, which has always been my favorite part of the stories. So it is pretty cool. I do like that a lot. So, but I'm not sure if there's anything else to predict outside of what's going to happen to this. I very much can imagine Shulk and Rex sacrificing themselves in order to save Glimmer and Nickel. Took me a second. And the fact that Matthew's here too, who also doesn't show up later. Then again, they made statues of him later, right? So that's always a possibility. It does definitely feel like a big part of the theming of the game in general, and there's an element to it where it feels like it's hammering home via the familial connections of Shulk and Rex here. I'm assuming Glimmer is the daughter of Rex. I feel like they haven't said it outright, but it's like so. I'm not sure there's another explanation. She also just looks so much like Pyra, and she has Mithra's voice, or like a really similar voice to Mithra, and personality. So there's always that possibility, but I don't think I'd assume it at this point. But with that in mind, it would fit into the theme better. It feels like a lot of the themes are about handing things over to the next generation, basically, to ensure things go as smoothly as possible for everything down the line and that sort of stuff, and where you failed and where you've succeeded and that sort of stuff. There's always been that sort of like big theme throughout the Xenoblade stuff, so I could imagine them sacrificing themselves in order to ensure that. I think that would be appropriate given the rest of the story around stuff. In terms of A and Alpha, I mean, Alpha could just get defeated or placated or whatever else, or convinced to let the world continue under Zed's control is probably the biggest part of it. So the whole thing with Alpha in A is probably the biggest part of this, right? How did A phrase what she was? Like sort of the sentiment, sort of like the sentimental feel. And it might be wrong. I'd probably have to look at the wording, but I guess the impression I got was like she's sort of like the sentimental, like emotional connections and feelings that were built up in the adventures in Xenoblade 1, basically, right? That's sort of how I take it. Where she did say that was sort of left in the ghost, but like the actual self and memories are left with the remnants of that world. But she's more like the actual like emotional side of it, and that's why it's so important for Alpha to have the emotional side out of Niall in order to properly power Alpha's self. Okay, so based on that, from a storytelling sort of perspective, my speculation there would probably be that A will probably recombine with Alpha, and the experiences with Matthew in particular will have developed to the point that Alpha's emotion via them recombining will have set Alpha into a state that they will, at the very least, stand aside in order to allow the world to play out its course, to allow people to find their value in life through the struggles and stuff like that, and make what of their life they choose to do. Probably, maybe. That would be my speculation, at least. Oh, I'm speculating about the story again. I'm in a better mood. I love you again, Xenoblade. You made me hate you there for a second, but we're back to being great. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna stop there and leave it at that. So, I'll see you all next time. Drive safely, everyone. And hello, and welcome back to Xenoblade Chronicles. 3, Future Redeem. Last time, we lost all the subscribers. This time, how about we lose the rest of them? We got some stragglers that probably gave me some benefit of the doubt, right? We gotta lose them real quick. So a lot of what I said last time was probably stream of consciousness. I've actually just spent a day and gave it some more thought, and I'm probably still not going to get everything out as concisely as I really want to, and as clear as I really want to, but there's some elements of just pure game design that I feel as though are important things, I think, to discuss, and are sort of important to my enjoyment of it or not. I want to make it very clear, if you enjoy the overall gameplay loop, if you like the multiple gameplay loops within the overall gameplay loop of the exploration probably being the big part of it, all the exploration as well as the normal battle, and if you like all that stuff and it comes together well for you, there's absolutely no problem. This is ideal for you. Because it is a very specific design made for a very specific way to play the series. And I think there's an underlying problem to the actual design that, unless you specifically want to do both of those, the concept as they presented it in this expansion here is inherently flawed from like a game design perspective. As some of you might know from the other videos that I've recorded and whatnot, one of the things that has made me record less on the channel is that I have other hobbies now, including some like indie game dev sort of stuff that includes writing and actually designing the systems for them. And I'm not an expert, I'm not anything like that, but I've had a lot of times where I've had to go back and sort of assess why things are working, why things aren't working, and I think I have some insights on like why things are immersive and why things are more effective at like drawing the player to want to do more, to have some thought process on why this works or why it won't, or why there's an underlying, I think, flaw to the system that makes me a little scared for the future of the series, basically. I also might cough if Editing Echo didn't catch that. My throat's not great at the moment. Just I've been recording these after work for the past few days, so yeah. The problem that I sort of run into is there's two innate sort of conceptual problems with the gameplay system as it is. The first one is the battle system in general is sort of... It's fun, but it's not well conceived for strategy. It is not set up in a way because it's sort of tedious to do. I like it. I like playing it. I think one of the best parts of the base game was the different classes, because you could basically experiment and throw out your setup. From the battle system sort of elements of it, it is a very setup orientated gameplay, not turn-based system, but JRPG system, right? It isn't really a system that's driven by, what's the best way to phrase it? By the, like, in-battle tactical decision-making. And it definitely seems like it wants to be at times, but it's not really a good system for that. Because everything's sort of drawn out. There's a bunch of sort of little tedious elements that, if you do them over and over again, the novelty wears off and the tedium starts to wear on you for how the battles work. Particularly in Xenoblade 3, in its system, it is more drawn out than I think any of the other gameplay systems in the series were. And I think I said it before, but there's a reason I didn't do the extra stuff, because playing through long fights over and over again where I just do chain attack is the main way of getting down damage. Because there's basically like two phases to the battle, right? There's a little bit of strategy in the sort of like walking around, and the AI sort of controls a lot of people, so you're sort of hoping They do what you want, and you have a little bit of control over them, and you have a little bit of options in order to direct things here and there to try to time things. You're basically just trying to do a little things here and there to keep people alive long enough to get to your chain attack, and then you try to time the chain attack in a place so that you can dodge as much enrage mechanics as possible. That's basically what the strategy boils down to. There's a little bit of positioning, but chain attacks take forever. The other part of the battle is very samey, and the chain attacks are basically there to break up the sort of tediousness of the other part of it. If the entire battle was without chain attacks, it would be so much worse, right? So the ultimate point that I want to make from a design perspective, and something I hope they learned from in Xenoblade 3, is that it's a setup-heavy system. It is a system that is not favorable to redoing battles over and over again to try to adjust your strategy. Because the adjustment of the strategy is usually one little tweak here. Oh, I'll do my chain attack a little bit at a different time. Or maybe I'll press this button to try to hope to time it correctly for whatever enrage mechanic I couldn't dodge. That sort of thing. So in the base game, when you were confronted with those issues, like one of the main things I went to was the idea of I would go and have 3 healers, right? That was a big part of it. You had a hero as well, in order to sort of like give you the option of doing that, right? You had the option of like you had the option of unbalancing your party from 2-2-2 in that sort of way. So there was customization to sort of go and set up things in a way that it was sort of satisfying to see what you were trying to do pay off. I'm not going to say there's none of that here, but it's a lot more limited. The idea, the real sort of intrigue for the battle system as it stands has a lot more to do with the non-battle phase, but the setup phase. Generally, I think the best gameplay systems are ones that do both well. Xenoblade's battle system, Xenoblade 3 in particular, I think it's just because of the length of things happening, does not really do particularly well. That as well as with the amount of people on screen, because you have those 6-person, 7-person parties. So that's one like inherent problem with like the sort of gameplay, that the changes to this expansion exacerbates. It basically takes the most interesting elements of the base game, where you could basically have tons of customization over how you approached a problem. No matter whether you thought that you had an optimal option or not, there's always balancing stuff that is the problem. There's always balancing problems, that there might be an optimal thing people are more guided towards using and that sort of stuff. And that's more a balancing thing than a pure, like, fundamental design thing. Where is that going? Yeah, so the problem with this expansion here is that it limits itself on that front. I can't just sit down and have fun with trying this character in a different role, trying this character with a different class. Those like customization options aren't really there. It feels like each character has something they're sort of intended to fill based on the abilities they're given. A has a bunch of evasion related stuff. It makes her seem like she's supposed to be a healing evasion tank. Shulk has evasion stuff too, like he's supposed to be an evasion tank as well. As examples of one that I've really noticed. Rex has a lot of critical related stuff. You're clearly supposed to do a critical based build on him. Matthew, I don't really know. Nickel clearly has... Nickel is clearly like the just primary tank, and you're supposed to use him like that. There's ways you are supposed to use each of these characters, and there's just a little bit of wiggle room within. So it sort of turns the battle... So it turns... how I would phrase it is, when you come to the prep side of the gameplay design element, what you really want to do is you want to turn it not into this is the solution to the problem. You want to turn it into, here are your tools to make your solution to the problem. So I'm not going to say this is like a puzzle where there's one answer, but it is significantly more limited. So the fun of playing through that element of the gameplay system is significantly dampened in this version of the system. That's basically what that all comes down to. I think future games could improve the in-battle side so that there's more strategic choice, really, that you're making on a regular basis. I want to compare everything to Trails because, honestly, just like the Trails, especially by Reverie, I feel like both of those sides, it just got everything so exactly how I think it works best. There's so much I can point to for the Trails series that I feel like it just does extremely well from a gameplay design perspective. Because it doesn't do it as much, but there's more like the tools that they give you have a lot more to do with the choices you do in battle and stuff like that. And then you have, like, especially by the end of the Trails series as it's been out so far, there's a big emphasis on being able to do, like, a significant customizable build with master quartz, subquartz, that sort of stuff. And it's sort of like how the classes worked in this. It does the prep side of it really well, and the internal side of it becomes very strategically focused, in particular because it is turn-based. I think that's a big part of it. So that you're not really... So you're able to just sort of analyze the situation and pick what would be ideal in terms of positioning, in terms of using the skill, putting someone somewhere, switching out stuff. It gives you so many options, brave orders, that sort of stuff. There's so many strategic options it gives you at your fingertips by how the system developed towards the end, where there's so many choices that you make, and you're always put into, like, how I phrase it when I think about it for, like, my own sort of, like, development. Oh my goodness, I'm at 12 minutes. I'm not even at the second point yet. How I phrase it in my own development is sort of a, you always want to be redoing, you always want to be sort of refreshing the status quo. You want the player to always, very regularly, say if you're in a turn-based game, every number of turns, like percent of the battle, you want things to have swapped up and changed enough that you're going to be reapproaching your strategy and reassessing how you're using your skills and how you're doing that. Because that's, you can sort of think of it, and one of the things I actually take the most inspiration from is Final Fantasy XIV, where it has all those, like, distinct boss phases that sort of force you to do something entirely new, and a lot of those are actually puzzle fights in Final Fantasy XIV. For how you do it, but it doesn't feel as much like a puzzle because it's constantly changing up, and it isn't necessarily a set order, but it's constantly changing the status. So that's really where, like, strategic gameplay for, like, JRPGs and stuff, I think, work the best, where the status quo is constantly shifting. And the main ways that the game changes its status quo in this is largely Are your skills ready to proc? Is the boss enraged? Chain attacks, which is sort of just like a different gameplay loop. As much as I like chain attacks, they're sort of overdone in this. And a number of other like minor things. And it's okay, but it doesn't really help itself when it takes forever to go through and basically do the same thing and then just adjust a little. Because it's all very similar from battle to battle for a lot of those choices, right? So, I don't think it does that part particularly well, but it's not so bad that you can't, like, it's taking away from it. It's okay on that side, while the real fun of the game, for Xenoblade 3 in particular, I don't have a good enough memory of 1 and 2 to really say this definitively for them, for Xenoblade 3 in particular, is the prep side of it. And I already talked about that, so I think you know my thoughts. So, just in time to tell me to go on to the second point. The second point, and it's probably the bigger problem that I see with this expansion, is the fact that you have progression heavily tied to just doing a bunch of shit. There is an element to reward for playing the game that needs to feed into itself. There's sort of like the main gameplay loop that you have. In a JRPG, it's going to be the battle system. It's always going to be the battle system. But I generally have a rule of thumb when I approach my own stuff, my own ideas, that activities shouldn't really give you rewards that are contradictory to the reason you play the game. Let me give you an example. You create a super awesome named enemy, a super boss, that sort of thing. If you have a super boss in this game, you're given basically a gameplay challenge, right? It is a gameplay challenge. Engage with this gameplay battle loop. What will you get out of beating it? A reward that reinforces your ability to play the gameplay stuff. If you go engage with a story quest, what should be the reward? Story, in some form. Like a reward of, for example, you have a quest and you want the quest to basically end in a way that's satisfactory. You want to do the quest because you want to do story. You don't want the motivation for doing the quest to be the battle system. There can be some cross-pollination, but the important part about this is that you can't have them dependent on each other, because I think that's a really, really bad idea in game design. When you have them dependent on each other, the player becomes no longer able to choose what they want to engage with. They can't choose, oh, that story's quest I don't find interesting. I just want to play the game and explore stuff. Why is this the thing that you're, I just want to play the battle system. I want to fight the bosses and stuff like that. You lose the ability, especially if it's progression-based, if you actually have that sort of stuff. When it ties into the main progression. Let's just use the battle that I got annoyed on as an example. If I need to go do a side quest in order to have enough XP to realistically go and then fight the battle, that's not great. Because it's if I want to go fight the battle and I want to be better at it, you're telling me to go do this thing that has nothing to do with getting better at the gameplay system in order to become better at the gameplay system. Same with Collectopedia, same with all the other Collectathon elements where you get the unlocks and stuff like that. By its nature, you're basically telling someone to get good at the game via doing things that are entirely unrelated to the gameplay loop that you're telling them to get good at. Another, I guess, example of this in how I make games is like if you make a super boss, you don't want to put a story scene behind a super boss. You don't want to be putting like super important lore hidden behind a super boss. You want to give them a gameplay related reward like an ultimate weapon or some cool battle aesthetic that makes you look awesome in battle or something like that. Something to reward them in the realm of the part of the game they've chosen to engage in. If you find a player that wants to do all of them, that's fantastic, because they just want to do all of them and they're okay with doing it at whatever pace that you've developed your gameplay loop, your overall gameplay loop to throw them between the different parts of the game. What I typically see as a more ideal place for all the side content is generally rewarding you in a way that gives you stuff that is cool for the reason you're doing it. Give me side quests that give me that unlock a cool, like, for example, the heroes. Give me these interesting side quests that unlock having this cool character. Because a character is obviously both gameplay and story related as a reward, but I'm doing this quest in order to get something story related. That's a fantastic way to do it. I think that's exactly how you should do it, because you're telling a person to engage in story to get story reward, right? You're giving them more of what they want, because they've chosen to engage in that, right? I'm also willing to bet that, like, the base Xenoblade 3, you could probably get through the whole game without ever, like, doing almost any of the hero stuff outside of, like, the one required, like, tutorial one. You probably could. Especially on the lower difficulties. It's very easy to, like, sit back and just say to me, like, oh, just turn down the difficulty. Right? Because I'm sure someone's thinking that even if there's no comment, right? And I did turn down the difficulty, obviously. Like, if you don't want to engage in the systems, then just turn down the difficulty rather than playing on hard. But the problem with that is sort of what I was saying before, where if the game's asking me to do things that have nothing to do with getting better at the system in order to progress, then in order to feel like I'm actually in a place that I'll have a chance. Like, I had to go do a bunch of extra stuff just to get up to level. Let's be not unclear about that. I had to do a bunch of stuff in order to just get up to level, right? If the game's basically telling me to not engage in the thing that go do these things that aren't engaging in the system to actually get better at it in order to get better at it. Get good by not engaging in the system is such an inherently flawed concept that it seems natural that you'd want to avoid it. Which is why I think it's better to have it as sort of a tertiary thing. Why I think Xenoblade Chronicles 1 did a fantastic job. Like, that is such a pinnacle of these side activities that I didn't really want to do all that much, but they were sprinkled in enough to not be part of the gameplay loop, but rather, like, not be part of, like, a gameplay loop in a way that, like, I had to engage in them in a way that was basically go out, do this thing to get good at it, right? Xenoblade Chronicles 1, I felt, by the end of it, I was in a place where it sincerely felt like I was able to engage with it just as much as I felt like I wanted to engage with it, and then go out and do things and just play the game and not feel like I had to grind almost ever, right? It's a balancing act. It feels tertiary. It's something that's an option to go to that could supplement you, but won't necessarily make or break your ability to continue, even on the harder difficulties, right? I am so rambling at this point. Hopefully I'll put like hopefully I'll put like a timestamp somewhere to jump ahead. Hopefully Editing Echo remembers. But with that in mind, the ultimate point being here is that the only way the system as I see it really works is if you assume that the player wants to regularly engage with all the side content and not just advance the fucking story, right? The balance here is so significantly different than I remember any other game in the series ever being for any of my playthroughs. I don't remember ever having this sort of, like, pound my head against the wall. Even in the Torna stuff where I was annoyed that I had to go do a side quest, that was still just a, well, it happened once, I'm annoyed, let's move on. And the rest of the game was just fine. That's such a good example of it as well, where I guess the other way to phrase it is it feels like padding. It feels like it's trying to make the game longer than it really is by throwing all this additional side content in there, instead of just spending that time on telling the story. Ultimately, my point basically boils down to they've interconnected disparate gameplay systems to the extent that where if you like both of them, it'll probably be great. They probably, if you are fine going through at the loop and pacing they've clearly designed for it, which is heavy on doing basically most of the content, that's fine. It'll be great for you. But if you don't want to engage with some parts of it and you just want to move forward, then you're fucked. And that's the inherent problem by not making it optional. Because it really should be, at its underlying core, the side content should be a change of pace in order to keep things fresh and keep the pace moving. That's what it should be. It shouldn't ever be a required part of the gameplay loop, in my opinion. Hi, welcome to my TED Talk. I think that's probably where I'm going to end it.